Hello,
Hello.
everyone. Welcome to episode 5 of the Media Crash podcast. Today, we are going to be talking about the spy genre. We are still in full-on quarantine mode like the rest of the world. My name is Holden, otherwise known as Time to Grind.
My name is Daniel, otherwise known as Not Daniel.
I'm Matthew, otherwise known as Sutter.
And so today we're going to be talking about the spy genre, just in movies or video games or TV, or just our experiences with that genre in our lives. And so I think obviously the first thing that most people probably think of is just James Bond and the whole 007 franchise, because that expands from movies and games and stuff like that. So what have your guys'
the classical spy movie? You see, at the beginning, I was trying to be a spy by posing as the famous Time to Grind of Time to Grind Gaming. I borrowed his signature hello, and that let me infiltrate the ranks of Media Crash. So in that way, I'm being a bit of a spy right now.
Wouldn't it have been better to come up with an alternate identity rather than coming up with the identity to the guy you're going to try to go to?
I mean,
that's true.
That may be a good idea, but I've seen dumber spy movie plots. Spy movie plots rarely make sense.
But my first experience was 007. My dad had VHSs of the first 5 movies, so we were watching them in order from the beginning.
Ooh.
And it's interesting because it's basically just an anthology. It's just each movie, James Bond goes to a location, fights a villain, bangs a chick, or multiple women usually. Sexist kind of. That's it. And just the first one, he goes to Dr. No, where I think it's in Hawaii somewhere around, and he stops guiding Dr. No, and then second one's Russian with Love, and then it goes all the way with Sean Connery, and then there's Thunderball, which also made the equivalent of $1 billion at the time. It was a couple $100 million, but it was made big money. And that's when the franchise just got big, and then they started switching out actors, and that's when it really just became an anthology because it doesn't fucking matter. This guy's 007.
He's a spy. You get the point when you're signing up to watch a James Bond movie.
And I think that's why, because I, as a kid, I've seen probably 3 or 4 of the different James Bond movies, but I, honest to God, don't remember any of them. I don't remember the plots. I don't remember anything about them because, I don't know, it's not that they were bad or anything.
I barely remember the plot of the earlier ones as well. I watched several, 5 or 7, and I remember there was one where there was this big Russian guy, and he managed to tank a brass knuckle to the chest or something, and that was to show how strong it was. And I remember the original Spectre, the Mr. Evil guy that Lily should, the Dr. Evil guy from the what are those movies called? Basically the parody of the 007 movies.
Powers.
Yeah, that is, and apparently Thunderball was literally just the same thing where he captures nukes and threatens and wants a bunch of money, but it was only $100 million at the time.
I think also, just while we're still on the 007 topic, there was a 007 video game that I played on the Wii a ton, and it was 007 Quantum of Solstice or whatever it was called.
Quantum of Winter Solstice.
But I mean, it was fun. I don't think I played the campaign at all. I just played multiplayer, so it doesn't necessarily fit in the talking about the spy stuff. But I have played a 007 video game at some point in my past.
You two
and I just earned an award for that.
More experience in 007 lore. I haven't seen a single thing. I'm a 000, and y'all are a single 014 with your combined knowledge.
Okay.
So,
have you seen?
What spy?
Have you not seen any of the new movies with Daniel Craig, where there's actually a central
Skyfall,
plot?
I think that was one I saw.
I was kind of young, I was kind of young, and I don't really remember the plot.
That actually just legit made $1 billion. By the way, I was doing research 30 minutes ago, and it made $1 billion in the box office. I'm like, holy shit!
I mean, was it well received as well?
Yeah, no, it was a good movie. And when it came out, it was very popular. So, but I just didn't think it would hit $1 billion. That's usually comic book movies and shit.
Yeah, and I think like 007, probably part of the reason why none of us can like really like remember exactly like why or the plots of all of them is one because we probably watched them a while ago, but also because I don't know, they are kind of just the generic spy movies. Like they
Oh,
do what they
definitely.
do well. But the one thing that I really liked, that the spy kind of movie that I personally really like, is like the Kingsman movies because it has a whole like awesome like kind of like gentleman like I don't know like how to describe that like that theme, but it has like a whole special like thing to that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Matthew Vaughn directs those movies, I think, and he does a pretty good job of. But it turns out to just like I think it's based on a comic book, if I remember well. And you kind of notice that with just how it's stylized, with all the
Hmm.
characters and all the ridiculous. They just kind of lean in on like, yeah, it's dumb, but that's kind of what the point of these movies. It's not necessarily like hard espionage thriller, trying to outsmart people. In the end, it's just they use gadgets and beat up people. Not
which
even
is
beat up.
fun.
They sort of kill people most of the time.
Yeah,
That's always
which
been my favorite part about just the spy genre in general is like the gadgets, like the whole stereotypical room of like the main character being like welcomed into this room, and then there's like here's like all these things. This is a pen that when you press it, it'll like burst eardrums of everyone in the room, and here's like a thing of gum that if you eat it, like I don't know, just like I love that was like my favorite part about like all that kind
My
of stuff.
favorite part, one of my favorite trope of those movies is, especially in James Bond ones, the early ones, is they would be introduced to just five just random items. Like this is a pen that attracts something. This is a briefcase with a gun in it or something or a bomb in it, and like they're the most like niche items. But every fucking time, all five of those random items would be used in that movie. Like they'd be like he would be falling. It's like, oh wait, my briefcase doubles as a fucking parachute. Let's just do that every time, and it's amazing.
it's pretty great. They're just like, okay, here's the Chekhov's gun. We're lampshading this now. This is why this person has this. Don't ask questions. We're moving forward.
Did you any of y'all read the Alex Rider series, like the books?
Oh, I read
Nope,
like one or two of them though. The one I remember
I'm illiterate.
specifically is like the one where the villain in the whole book was like a video game company and like he was like actually like torturing like the people and killing them to like make their emotions real in the like video game or
Do,
something like that.
do you remember how he kills the guy by paying him?
Oh
Do you know what
yeah,
I'm talking about?
I do. That
That was stupid.
yeah, you want to explain what would
I'd
Yeah,
happen?
love to understand what you're
it's the
talking about.
classic. There's a minion that's like, oh, you haven't paid me my $10 billion, a couple $100,000. I don't know how much it was, and it's like, oh, fine, fine, I'll pay you your money and pennies, and he just crushes him to death
Yeah,
with
he
all
tells
these
him to go
coins.
in the room. He's like, "Your money's in that room over there." And the guy's like, "Okay." And then he walks in, and there's obviously nothing. And he's like, "What? There's no money." And then like, yeah, pennies start falling.
Oh my god, that's so dumb.
And I think
That villain is just spiteful. What an
like just think about
asshole.
how hard that would be to actually like just get that many pennies. Like that's a
Probably costs
whole
more.
process.
Did you
Oh,
know
to
a penny
transport it and
costs
stuff.
more
Yeah.
than a penny?
Oh,
Like,
because it's like
the
made of
material
copper.
cost of a penny costs more than just a penny. But you can't melt
Imagine,
them down because they're federal currency.
imagine being the minion to that guy that was tasked as like, look, I want you to install something on the roof that releases like $100,000 worth of pennies. It's like, so you want me to go to the bank and find an excuse that get like those little fucking rolled up things and get $100,000 worth?
I was like,
I
yep. And I think that's another reason, like, why spy movies are so fun because, yeah, you have the stupid gadgets that are super fun, but then you also have just like the crazy villains and like the plots they do and like how far they go. Like, everything's overkill. Everything the villains do in like every spy movie is just completely overkill. Like, I think it was still that like, I don't know if it was the same Alex Rider book or one of the other ones, but like they have the whole like tropey thing of like a Shark Tank, and then like the brave spy or heroes getting like lowered into the Shark Tank or whatever. I'm sure we could probably find like 7 different examples of a Shark Tank being used. But yeah, that's always an interesting part about spy movies.
Do you know in one of the James Bonds? I don't. I need to research which one it was, but it's too late now. But one of them, he goes. It's set in like around the Silicon Valley, like in the '80s, and the villain is like this tech mogul, and it turns out he's a clone of Hitler or something, and he's trying to utilize the tech industry to bring back some. Not I
To bring back
I don't
like
know the full plot.
Nazism or something.
Yeah,
Oh,
I
that's
guess.
great.
Oh my gosh.
Like, they just get so ridiculous. Most of my experience with spy movies are even less grounded than y'all's. Well, Matthew, you've played this with me. I guess you can consider it to be like more grounded, but I think video games are just inherently more ridiculous. The Splinter Cell series is my major introduction to spies and all that good stuff. And like, it's pretty goofy, the shit that goes on.
Like, what are some of the things that happen?
Oh, okay. So I think the first time I played it was it which game was it?
Conviction?
Yes, Conviction.
That was the edgy
And
one.
Conviction. That was the edgy one?
That was the one where he was rogue, and the government, the agency he works for, literally had a plot to kill the president.
Oh. Okay, maybe this isn't the best example to use for goofy spy stuff. But I always found it to be goofy because we always did the combat or the co-op in those games, and it's ridiculous playing a espionage stealth-based game when you're playing with someone else, and obviously the other person's going to do one of three things. They're going to do it right, which happens like 10% of the time, myself included, of course. They're going to do it wrong, like another 10% of the time. Then the other 80% of the time, they're going to do some really dumb shit to make you laugh, which honestly is what makes co-op espionage games really, really fun. Because they give you all those gadgets. Like in Splinter Cell, you had those sonar goggles, you had a whole arsenal of guns, you had like sticky bombs, noisemakers, cameras, and whatnot.
So
That's what made it really, really fun, with just fucking around with all the gadgets.
I remember there's the noise distractor. I remember the exact music it was. I could probably figure out what it was. It was like doo 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 dee da 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 da, and then it had like an end.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah, and like right at like the end of that melody, like I know in Blacklist. It's Blacklist, yeah, Blacklist. Like a bomb goes off at the end of that.
No, you could time when you could press it whenever you want. But there's a part in the song where it goes da 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 da, and then I would always blow it up then because it was like a perfect time.
So
you just conditioned me into thinking that these are the mind games, all right? Y'all are way ahead of me on espionage. I don't understand this 5D chess y'all are playing.
So go ahead.
I was going to say, Daniel, when you were talking about the three things that happen in the game, I always thought you were going to say either 10% of the time you do it perfectly, you win. You do the mission 10% of the time, you fail. 90% of the time, you fail upwards, where you technically pass the mission, but you also kill like half the warehouse full of bad guys.
And you're not doing it.
Can I change my answer to that? Teacher Holden, may I change my answer to that? That sounds way more correct.
You are allowed to.
Oh, why? Thank you. Yeah, like spy games, you always, well, not always, but oftentimes, even messing up is like an opportunity for a lot of fun, assuming you don't get swarmed or you're not some like twitchy-eyed perfectionist. It's a lot of fun using insane gadgets to escape from, angry guards or whatever, or coming up with just ridiculous ways to, assassinate your target. Speaking of which, Matthew, I know you've played Hitman. Holden, have you played Hitman?
Oh, I was going to get to that. I was literally just going to talk about that.
I've played. I think it started with an A. Hitman, like.
This is the one that was basically just a story. It was just a campaign.
That wasn't my favorite. I played that one too. For context,
it had
for our
moments.
lovely audience, Hitman is a game where you play as a hitman and you try and kill people, and it's all very espionage focused. I should probably say Splinter Cell's a game where you play as a spy and you do spy shit. It's pretty fun. Anyways, please continue.
The reason I like Hitman as an espionage game is because it literally, like, the game wants you to only kill that person. It would very much not like you to kill anyone else. Even if it's like a terrorist organization or anything, it only wants you to kill the target. So it actually technically score-wise punishes you if you just go in and kill, like, even if you kill like the two guards next to him and then kill him, then technically that's not what they want either. It's only that person. So if you can just find a way not only to kill only that person, but also make it look like an accident or like no one sees the body or anything, then it's like you get even more rewarded, which is what you want with a hitman job. You don't want anybody's.
Yeah.
That kind of just makes me think, especially going back to what you were saying, Daniel, about like the whole Splinter Cell, and what you were saying, Matthew, about how like a lot of the times you end up technically passing the mission, but like you completely failed. I think that's a lot of fun, at least in like the, I mean, even in movies, just the genre itself, it opens itself up for, it's like, okay, you have one plan. Like you have this one plan, you need to get in, assassinate, or you need to get in, get the intel and get out. And then just shit always hits the fan for whatever reason, whether it's, you're too loud.
It's kind of like
and then
heist movies, like a
Yes.
plan always fails. You go in to steal some toilet paper from a prepper's house, and it turns out you were body doubles the whole time. Everything was a lie. The plan was a lie. Reality is a lie.
We spent way too much time last time talking about this. We don't need to go over this again.
Yeah, so
we could never spend enough time on that. We need to have this plan in order, y'all.
If you missed it, last episode we were talking about the heist genre, and that was a lot of fun. So if you somehow missed that, definitely check that episode out.
How to steal toilet paper from a Corona prepper for probably a solid half the runtime, and then we just ended.
So,
a good example of a mission fucking up? Have you guys seen the first Mission Impossible?
I think I have.
I've seen some of them. I have probably not seen the first.
But the first one, so Mission Impossible at first was like a TV series, like in the, I don't even know what decade. But literally the first movie starts with like different actors, obviously, but like the same cast of those characters. But the first scene, the first mission, is 90% of them die. Like all of them die due to different reasons because the mission just fucks up. Like the engineer that's supposed to be like kind of like a heist movie, the guy that's supposed to be working like the tech is like working on the elevator, and then someone hacks him and makes the elevator go up when he's on top of it, so it just goes just like.
Oh jeez. When you said hack him, I thought like he had like a pacemaker or something. And they're like, yeah, no, they hacked him.
Batman did that in one of his games. He literally, like, in his way of interrogating but not killing someone, he just hacked into his pacemaker and made it go faster to get him to speak.
Oh my gosh.
I know. It's probably the most fucked up I've seen Batman go. Actually, no. That's not definitely not true.
Sociopathic billionaire.
I think another kind of like angle for spy movies as well is kind of like the thing where you're like trying to be like an insider. So say, you're on to this corporation and you're trying to like figure out the secrets they're holding, like getting like an inside, person in there to kind of like, figure out what's happening. So say you're, figuring out what this like organized crime organization, I don't know why I said it like that, what they're up to, maybe you get someone to actually join that organization and, infiltrate it from
double agent
inside.
movies.
Yeah, and like I think that's another interesting kind of angle to it, because that always brings like the tension of you constantly think they're going to get caught or something like that, and and then that just makes me think about those. It seems like in a ton of spy movies, all of the villains have like cyanide capsules, like just every time they're trying to get
and they're dead.
Or is it like in their tooth or what is it? Like
yeah,
they have
it's
like a
supposed
cyanide
to be
tooth?
like in their tooth. I'm pretty sure that's a real thing, though it might not be. But yeah, they have like cyanide capsules in their teeth, and they like bite on one of their teeth weird, and it releases cyanide. Imagine like just
accidentally do it.
All right, yeah, like can someone make a spy movie where some guy's like, he's
punched, he goes, "Oh shit!"
Good guys. Yeah.
Wait, because if you're just biting it weird, that would totally like if it gets punched and like your normally teeth would fall out.
Imagine you're the president and you're at some fancy dinner and some guy, he's just eating a steak, he bites his fork or something and dies.
Oh my gosh, that.
Another trope.
I need to look this up real quick. I need to know if these were real.
If the cyanide
in 007, my favorite trope is basically they have their own version of like anime OPs where each movie has this like somewhat long intro with like a set musician singing that's popular at the time. Like one of them, you had Madonna at some point. You had Billie Eilish is doing the new one, just so you know.
Oh,
but
really?
like they're basically anime OPs where like it's like an intro, and some of them are good, some of them are not good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
When is Lil
and
Pump
I like
gonna I want a Lil Pump
Kanye West.
007 Kanye West. I want Gold Digger to play at the start of one of
Gold
the
Digger sounds like a James Bond movie, but that's just because gold's in it.
So
exactly. It's relevant.
cyanide teeth, they don't actually exist like as teeth. Apparently, it came from like in World War II, captured Nazis would like take a cyanide pill and crush it with their teeth to kill
So that they
themselves.
would just like pop it in their mouths or something.
They pop it in their mouth, like keep it there while they're captured, and just like
That makes sense. The I think one other thing, if you guys ever watched it, I think it was on Cartoon Network. Two things I want to talk about. First, about what was like, wasn't it like Code, Kids Next Door, Codename Kids? What was
yeah,
it?
Codename Kids Next Door.
Codename
Kids
Kids
Next
Is
Next
that
Door.
ever espionage though?
Oh, that was
honest,
hard espionage, harder than Splinter Cell.
I just remember there was like
Like
a
I'm trying to think. Like yeah, I guess
kids spy
they were
organization.
spies.
All right, but like,
did they ever
every
do anything
spy
spy
movie
related?
is always just like, here's the good guys, here's the bad guys. The good guys are going to use some dumb gadgets and beat the bad guys.
And the
And
bad
that's
guys
what
are going to have
Kids
some
Next Door
world-ending
is,
plots.
so, yeah.
The kids next door were literally just like Shield. That's what they were. They were rather than like an agency with like espionage and like spies. They were just like I remember they had like fleets of like armaments that I remember there were some fucking battles in that show too.
I
Like,
remember
they got pretty deep into the lore, too. I remember even as a kid being like, wow, this is really developed. Damn.
there was a Flash game. Remember those? But there was a Flash game for I can't even say it.
When
We
they
Code.
should
Kids
talk
Next Door.
about Flash games one
That.
episode. I think that'd be fun.
But there was one where you played as the kids, and you had to like infiltrate this like ice cream base. Like it was like the villain was in like an ice
think I
cream
ever played that
manufacturing
one.
base or something. But that was fun. I think my favorite example of spies, like just in general, like totally, because it just encompasses literally everything, like all of the absurdness in that, is the like cartoon Spy versus Spy, where you had like the just like full on black spy and like the full on like the like just black and white, and they were just constantly like at each other's throats. It was almost like a Tom and Jerry type thing, but just with full on spy gadgets, and that's probably my
Just
favorite.
as
Like
goofy as
example.
you can get.
Yeah, because like, what's the point
Matthew,
of
what's
like
your
doing
favorite,
spy
like-
stuff? Yeah, what's your favorite?
Exactly, to use gadgets and have fun with it. Yeah, Matthew,
What's my favorite
what's
what?
your favorite?
Yeah, Matthew.
What's your favorite?
What's
Matthew,
your favorite
What's my
spy
favorite what?
thing?
My favorite spy?
You know, what's your favorite superhero movie?
Who's the guy that who was the double agent in the Revolutionary War? That was my favorite spy. The traitor that was working for the
Benedict
he turned on Americans for the British. Who was that guy's name?
Benedict
You're
Arnold.
asking the wrong person, Matthew.
That's my favorite spy.
Wait, was it Benedict Arnold? I don't want to look like a dumbass on stream. It was Benedict Cumberbatch.
What are we doing with our lives? Oh my gosh.
It was Benedict Arnold. He was the original spy.
The
He
original.
was definitely not the original
Yeah, but
spy.
what gadgets
He
did
was
he
the
have?
first man. Benedict Cumberbatch, otherwise known as
the British
Benedict
flag. That's what his gadget was.
Cumberbatch, our spy, invented the act of spying.
Okay, so I have a
one
question.
What if his wooden-
lying before the revolution?
What if his wooden teeth was actually had cyanide in it?
No, it was a radio transmitter. His wooden teeth was a radio transmitter.
was.
And it would transmit
but
like Morse code vibrations into his gums. And that's how he could
They would send
communicate.
that to the British Armada, where King George was sitting there twirling his mustache that I'm sure he might have had. Talking about, he'll get those dastardly Americans.
Oh my
You think-
gosh.
Luckily, we had our
extremely off
revolutionary
topic.
bond, George Washington, and he solved that plot for us.
Could you kill a vampire in the 1700s if you had wooden teeth and you bit into him? Well, no, you would have to eat his heart.
You would have to like stake his heart, but what really counts as steak? Is it anything wooden and sharp or anything sharp?
Okay, this is This is not having anything to do with agents. I don't want to get into
Hey,
this, but
well, maybe
But I do
the vampire was a spy. We don't know that. We could just tie everything to
Okay,
that.
let's say that you have a vampire spy, and like you grab a piece of wood, but this is like MDF wood. MDF is like little particle sawdust wood that's brought together by glue. Does that count as a stake, or does it have to be like naturally full grown wood? And the vampire's a spy, so we're on topic. Okay, I'm so sorry. Let's talk about something else.
okay. I have a good question to get us back on track. A hypothetical. What game, movie, whatever, would you want to see of like a spy espionage thriller? But like, what setting would you want to have rather than just like modern?
So kind of like
now.
Kingsman is like more of like a gentleman type spy, like.
Well, but that's still
Or,
like in the modern world. I'm saying like what setting, like steampunk, fantasy, like.
Oh, so not like a gimmick, but more of just like a whole on setting. Okay, huh?
All right, like I would love a high fantasy, like D&D. Think like generic D&D setting. I would love to see a spy movie in that.
Like Game of
have,
Thrones,
like,
but you're
mages
the
and
spy
stuff.
master. You're the bald fucker, Ferris.
Yeah, but like think like kind of higher fantasy, so like more magic.
Oh yeah, we could have that race relations analog, but it's not actually like you don't have to be too hard on it because it's just orcs and stuff, so it doesn't count.
Oh no. Okay, so I got a kind of different like answer on the opposite end of the spectrum, but like a spy movie that takes place in like 6,000, like far, far, far future. Because all I care about in spy movies are the gadgets. Honestly, that's like the best part about spy movies, and anyone saying otherwise is lying to themselves. So just imagine like what type of gadgets you could have in like the year 6,000. Like you could have like a contact.
When you say 6,000, I'm thinking of like trans-dimensional, like power-based objects. Like I'm thinking like you're posing as a fourth dimensional being, and you have to figure out how to mask your like scene in order to not make yourself like seem like you're just a measly third.
See, you have a pencil. You have a pen, and every time you click it,
so we still use pens in
changes
6,000?
the dimension you're in. Okay, it's a pencil. It's a pencil. Every time you click it, you just switch dimensions.
So like, what happens to your organs and stuff? So your
it
organs
gets put
are
in your
still
briefcase gadget.
I like the idea that this movie though is it basically offers no like any movie that thinks it's more important than it actually is of like it just gives information as if you assume what you know of the world. Like it's the year 6,000, and so they'll just talk about things, and it'll be like, "What? We're robbing the Fallopians," and like that's the gimmick of the movie. Is like things will happen, and they'll say they're going somewhere, but they won't explain like what that is. So it's just like, oh, we used our transcombobulator with the gimmigog, and
So the
oh
whole
no, you
joke
can't
is
do that.
you
You'll
spend the
overload
entire movie
on
confused.
yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So I got another hypothetical for you guys. We're running a little bit low on time, but we're gonna just pretend we don't have to pretend. We are just in our normal 2020 world. What like if you were a spy? What gadget, like absurd gadget, would you want invented like for yourself, like to serve whatever purpose that spy things need? Like for me, I think like something I would want it to be something that, because you have the stereotypical thing of like things looking like everyday objects and then turning into like full on spy things. And I think the complete opposite would be like, I want something that looks like spy shit that like totally gets me like red flag down. And then, so as an example, like I want like a full on like radio, I don't know, whatever like a spy radio thing would be, and I want to have that look like that, but
it just has spy on it. It's just a regular radio,
and so
it has AM, FM, and spy.
In reality, all it is a crayon like bag, and it just stores my multicolored crayons. So I'm walking into this company, okay, and they like full on stop me, they imprison me, they're like, yo, what the hell? I'm like, what? It's just a crayon box. And then see, that gets me into the door because they're like, oh, okay, no, he's just a dumb guy pretending to be a spy. But the whole time I am a spy, and I walk right in because of my crayons.
When do they ask
And
you why you're bringing
inside the crayons, there's a
to the
gun.
Pentagon?
There's a fully fledged AR-15 if you disassemble each crayon and put all the parts together.
Oh my gosh. So yeah, what would your guys' hypothetical gadgets be?
Mine would be a knife, like a kitchen knife, but when you press a button, it heats up. Like, you know that trend like a couple of years ago where people would heat up like to 1,000 degrees their knife would be like red hot.
And
That's what it would do.
Clickbait.
Okay.
It would just like heat up very hot.
See, and if it got hot enough, you could do that because you could have a knife and you could use it as a weapon. But then, like, say there was like a safe or like something you needed to break into. Well, okay, now.
Oh yeah, it burns so hot.
Yeah,
it's basically
you
thermite.
press a button and you could just like start like using it to like carve like into like steel and stuff. Okay, so we got some good gadgets.
Damn, that's like a lightsaber. That's sick.
Okay, so now what about you, Daniel?
I'm gonna go with a gun. I'd like a gun.
A gun? That's a pretty decent gadget.
I like the idea that this guy pulls up like a gadget that's like a yo-yo, but like it can like it's like 1,000 kilograms or something. And then you just pull a gun and just shoot him, Indiana Jones style.
This is what I want. I want a miniature device, handheld. It causes a small localized explosion within a barrel. And in this like barrel tube, there is a piece of metal at the very end. And this piece of metal will be shot out with the pressure.
You're explaining this to the guy. You're in a situation and you're like assembling it like one of those briefcases. Like you're putting it together. And there's a guard with just like a revolver, just going like, just unsafe.
Well, so okay, I thought you were going to take that. I thought so. I'm imagining Daniel being a spy, right? And he goes up to his gadget scientist, and he's like, "Okay, I have an idea for a gadget, okay?" And you start like explaining like the process, and like at first he totally thinks you're serious. He's like writing down like frivolously like notes and stuff like that, and like he eventually like when he realizes that you're just fucking talking about a gun, he puts his notes down and he just like looks at you, and I don't know. That's where I thought you were going with that, and I could see that.
I don't think I'd be a very good secret agent.
But, man, well, is there anything else? The only other spy thing that I wanted to talk about was the spy from TF2 because that was like my favorite class and being able to turn invisible. And then he had an item that, like, if you took damage, you actually went invisible or you looked like you died. So that's a cool gadget.
Yes.
I think it was called, like, the Dead Ringer.
That item is very fun to play against. That item is very, very fun to play against.
Man,
it's so fun killing a spy 20 times and not knowing if it's actually dead.
Spy was one of those classes in a game that you hated until you played them.
Oh, yeah, because you always loved it. And then it was like, because honestly.
Like, it has every right to exist, but I'm not going to pretend to not be annoyed.
I mean, yeah, you have to spy check everyone every time you walk, because the spy in TF2 could also like disguise himself to look like a person on the enemy team. So literally every time you walk past a teammate, if they were acting even remotely suspicious, you just had to shoot them because there wasn't team damage. So you just had to constantly spy check. Yeah, was there any other spy things that you guys wanted to talk about before we wrap this thing up?
I think we should at least mention Metal Gear as probably one of the most popular
Metal
franchises.
Gear. That's less a spy game and more a psychedelic journey into the inner workings of Hideo Kojima's mind.
Yeah, but I just want to point that out just because I think Metal Gear Solid 3 basically has an intro similar to any James Bond intro, which is just like set song that's very catchy over an extended time.
Snake
Oh my God, Daniel! Any other spy things you wanted to mention before we call it quits?
Spy Kids.
Spy Kids.
Spy Kids.
We have 2 minutes left on the Zoom meeting now, so
yeah,
we might not be able to open up that can of worms.
Spy Kids is a whole nother can of worms that does not deserve to be talked about. That is
what.
I'm gonna bring it up. If we do a kids movie one,
over. I'm out. I can't work.
We're doing a kids movie episode. I'm talking about kids. I'm talking about Spy Kids and whatever. Fuck, what's his name? Something Rodriguez. He made those movies. He made Shark Boy, Lava Girl, and he made this Wish movie I made us all watch during my birthday, and it was terrible.
I remember that movie. Even like 8-year-old me thought, "Wow, this is shit." The movie was called Shorts. It had absolutely no structure. If it did have a structure, it was put together right. It tries
tried to
do
do
like the
Pulp
Quentin
Fiction.
Tarantino thing. Yeah,
Oh
the
my
Pulp
god, for a
Fiction
kids
thing
movie.
where it cuts
Yeah,
up
it's
different parts. Shorts is
Yeah.
one of the worst movies ever, and now I think we should do an entire episode on it. Just railing
Well,
into it.
we might have to, stay tuned for the next episodes, and we might be talking about Spy Kids more, apparently. But either way,
Don't worry, we won't do that until we're scraping the bottom of the barrel.
yes. So I hope you guys enjoyed this episode of Media Crash. Check us out on, if you're watching us, you can also listen to us on podcast platforms. If you're listening to us, we are on YouTube. So stay tuned for the next episode, and thank you guys so much for watching. See you guys next week, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.